Right, let's talk about engines and getting them set for winter layup. Engines are arguably the most costly or potentially costly aspect of your winter layup. It's easy enough to have done, but if it goes wrong, you're talking about replacing your engine. So the recommendation here is I'm going to talk about some of the different aspects to your engine getting winterized, but potentially you are going to find a technician who's going to do that for you. If you're a new boat owner, you may not realize that you've got to circulate coolant through the block, you've got to do an oil change and these different things. So the idea behind this portion of the video is just to introduce you to what needs to be done so that you can find the technician to make sure it gets done. Some people though, a technician isn't an option for them and they'll want to or need to learn how to do it themselves. At that point, it can be done for sure. Lots of people do winterize their engine themselves, but you need to spend some time and effort to learn how to do it properly, because if you get it wrong, you could in fact crack your engine and have no engine the next year. So follow your owner's manual, get recommendations from your manufacturer, and even spend some time with someone learning how to do it. But let's just touch on the key points to winterizing your engine so that you don't forget something. First thing that needs to happen before the boat is hauled out of the water is you need an oil change. The argument for having an oil change is that you've got fresh oil in the cylinders ready for winter storage to protect those cylinder walls with nice, clean, fresh oil. The cleaner it is, the better it's going to do its job. This is an oil extractor and it's used to slurp the oil out of your oil pan. And then of course, whatever your brand of oil is that you're using regularly on your engine, you're going to put fresh into your engine. You want to do this before you haul out, I said, because if it's already cold temperatures, you've got to run your engine sometimes for as much as half an hour at the dock, 20 minutes at the dock, to really get the oil warmed up, or it's going to be very difficult to get it out of the engine, out of the oil pan. So change your oil first and then put a little tag on your engine that says the oil has been changed, don't run the engine. You're going to have to run the engine just to get to your haul out position, get to the travel lift or the crane, but otherwise try to minimize the use of the engine. The other thing that you're going to have to do once the boat is hauled out, you're going to have the coolant put in the engine block. So the idea with getting the coolant in there is that it replaces the raw water that was circulating through the engine and going out the tailpipe and stops the block from freezing. So here's our -100 engine antifreeze. It's -100. It's good for the engine, it's good for the aluminum block, compared to the plumber's antifreeze, which is only good to -10, but absolutely fine for your essential plumbing pieces. The reason you don't want to mix them up is because this is twice as expensive and it's just a cost savings measure, but arguably you could run engine coolant through your plumbing system. It's just more costly, that's all. So you're going to want to circulate this through the engine. Essentially what you're doing is taking your raw water intake and putting it in the jug, just like when we talked about plumbing antifreeze, putting the hose in the jug. And then you're going to run the engine and circulate the coolant through. And again, this is where I'll remind you, check your owner's manual, consult with your manufacturer, whoever built your engine, as to the best methods of doing that to make sure that you get enough coolant circulated through the engine to do the job. It needs to be at full strength, and there's a lot of water in the system already that is going to get flushed out throughout the process. When you're doing that, you want to catch the coolant. So you're doing this on land, you're not doing it in the water because you'd never be able to catch it. Even if it's an environmentally friendly, biodegradable coolant, you still don't need to drink it, you don't need to feed it to the fish. So make sure you catch your coolant in a bucket and dispose of it properly at your yard. They'll have a collection point for antifreezes, and that's where you're going to put it. You're also going to replace your impeller. The impeller is the portion inside the water pump that rotates and allows or makes the water circulate through your engine. So it's a good recommendation once a year to replace your impeller. If you don't use your engine a lot, you might replace it once every couple of years. Once you've replaced it with a fresh one, keep the old one as your spare for any moment when you suck up any plastic bags or leaves or debris in the water against your intake and maybe burn out your impeller. If you have a outboard engine, you're going to need a set of earmuffs. The earmuffs is sort of a tradey type name for it, but the idea here is that this goes against the water intake and a hose goes on here. The hose can either go in the jug, or if you're just flushing salt water out, you can actually put the hose on the end and run fresh water through it. But earmuffs will help you circulate coolant through your outboard engine. Outboard engines arguably need the same effort that inboards do. They need their impeller tended to. They might need some kind of oil change if they're a 4-stroke. They might need the oil in the lower unit changed every so often, and they need coolant circulating through them to keep them protected for the winter. Outboards, gasoline engines, you also want to drain all the fuel out. How do you do that? Just run the engine till it stops, and that's a simple way to do it. The engine winterizing can be a little bit complicated, and definitely you don't want to run the risk of doing it yourself and making a mistake.